Once there was a boy who could drink only seawater. Each morning he would walk down to the water with a bucket and draw a big draught of it to his home on the hill, drinking the thick stuff like it was milk. "Be careful," said his father, "or you will drink the whole thing." His mother smiled. The boy grew to be a man. He knew how to carve wood and to start a fire, to bake a loaf of bread and skin a hare. He could hike for many miles, but he could never leave the side of the ocean. He longed to see what lay deep inland, but he knew he must remain close to the shore. So it was that he decided to become a sailor. It was a natural choice. The people of his town did not trust the water, so he went out alone. The father was glad to have him out on adventure, but the mother feared he would never return. He braved every storm, for he could not drown. When the waves came upon him, he opened his mouth wide and drank them up. When the rain came tumbling, the plants he kept on the boat were watered, and he ate them. He spent many months this way, exploring the trees and rocks, but mostly the sky and the horizon, and what it means to be alone. At last he came to a place he could not leave. On the first day there, among the birch trees, which came like an army into the water so that he could see them from a mile away, he had spotted also a person, so fast as to be a deer, so strong as to be a god, so beautiful as to be a woman. He searched the land, but always he felt he must go further from the ocean than was good for him. He began to carry more and more water from the waves on his back, and he went 60, 100 miles away from the sea searching. She found him napping on the peak of the only mountain on the island. She took one look at his burnt skin and sand-speckled hair, and she knew he could drink the oceans, for he had not been wrong. She was the daughter of one of the gods, and she could tell these things easy as you or I could read a book. Early in her life, she had been promised that her happiness lay at the bottom of the ocean, but she had never been able to find it, not knowing how to swim. The man woke, and she knew that if he fell in love with her, she could ask him to drink the sea, and she would find her promised joy. It was not a slow thing, for as soon as he opened his eyes and looked at her, he knew she was his one true love. So she came with him on his boat, and they went from coast to coast, and he slowly drank as much as he could, no longer eating many of the plants. He could drink as much as a whale, and still his body had more thirst. He grew a little taller during this time, and his hair, thought the woman, looked like seaweed. Slowly the shores of the world began to show their ankles, lifting up the skirts of the water to mountains, valleys of sand, and coral reef. Still the woman did not see her happiness. "Keep drinking," she said to the man, and he did. They grew old this way. Sometimes it is like that, and it would not be true to say they weren't a certain kind of happy. The man was pleased to do as the woman wished, as long as he could sail and be near the tumbling water, and the woman was pleased to be on the quest with the promise just around every strait, each placid bay. By the end, the seas were shallow, less than a puddle, and surely, thought the old woman, surely my happiness will stick up out of the water now, and I'll be able to grab it up. Then we'll sail back home, and that'll be that. But the next day she realized there was not enough water for them to sail back home on, and she looked at the old man who she loved, but even before she looked, she knew he was dead. She lowered his body into the last of the puddles on earth and looked at the man who had drunk all the world's oceans for her. It occurred to her then that he must be her happiness, and she lay on top of him and hoped that in that moment the water would come rushing out of his body and the world would be filled halfway with it again. That underwater the two of them could live in death, their bodies giving a greater motion to the waves, their torsos curled up at the very core of the earth. But no, there's just his stillness and the wind lapping on the last tiny sea on that world.